Frances Rose Rivera Uribe. I've just turned 60 years old. First of all, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm a mentor, I'm a daycare provider for 36 years, I'm a teacher, and I'm a wife. The most important thing to me is family and friends and respect. My children's always gave me respect, but these days and ages, my grandchildren, some of them, have lost the respect for their elders. I'm raising my 3 granddaughters, and I'm trying to teach them the right way now to respect me and to teach them what verbal abuse does to people, because it's broken my heart. And I'm trying to mend it by teaching them. From yelling, screaming, calling names is hard on people. And it stays with you forever. I never thought that I would hear the abuse of the yelling to me, because I'm not a screamer or a yeller. I found out by the ways of my grandchildren that when I get angry, because I am angry with them, I know they're angry for the lives that they have been through, but I'm trying to do better for them. But they've made me angry, and that's not a good feeling, because when they yell at me, I'm starting to yell back, and that's not good. I'm trying to get them not to yell, to talk polite, to talk to their mothers and their father the right way, because they are their parents and they need to have that respect. And if they respect them, they're going to get the respect back. So I'm hoping, I could change the circle of violence that they've had in their family. I've been working with a domestic violence indigenous youth group and Return to the Circle and Chumash people in general. I'm trying to teach the teens now and preteens what it is and try to stop that cycle. And this project has helped me teach that. Why do you hurt somebody you love? And why do you hurt somebody that you respect? You need to respect yourself first, and then you respect those around you. And then if you respect, you'll always have respect in your life.
My name's Cheyenne Garcia. I'm 13 years old and I go to La Colina Junior High, and I am a Chumash Indian. Native Americans honor our earth, which gives birth to all of us and all the plants. Women, like us, also give birth to children, so that Native Americans also honor us. In Native American culture, women aren't the only ones that have to be respected. Men, women, and children, even the animals, have to be respected. Abuse is not tolerated anywhere, whether gender or species. Our tradition has lost respect. That's why we have domestic violence, and we need to earn that respect again. In my family, I have my mom, my dad, my 2 brothers, and all my animals. My family has never been a victim of abuse. Even though all relationships have their ups and downs, my family has never been a victim of that abuse. I have seen what can happen during domestic violence. I know people who have been abused, and it breaks up families. Both parents were abusing each other and they ended up going to jail. Their kids ended up having to stay with someone else, and it broke their family apart. When parents are being physically abused, their children are also being emotionally abused because they have to watch their parents go through that. During one of our teen retreats, we did this game called a conflict rope knot. where you and a partner are tied together and you guys have to try to get out of it. But the harder you pull to get out, the tighter it becomes. So you have to become together in order to get the knot out. People have to work together in order to make a family, in order to be happy together. When you're abusing someone, you're just pulling that knot tighter and tighter until it just snaps and you're not actually pulling it together to get out of it together. I think the workshop we had on domestic violence is important so kids can learn what kind of situations they'd be in order to know if they're being abused or not. I think everybody should know about domestic violence because it can really help them in their relationships and real life. A lot of people see domestic violence on TV and think it can never happen to them, but the truth is it can happen to anyone. One way you can stop domestic violence is by speaking out more. If you're getting abused, you have to tell somebody. So then you can educate people so you can just stop it before it goes on to the next generation. Domestic violence can not only just happen to grown-ups, it can also happen to people my own age too. If you're ever being pushed around or being controlled by your partner, that's considered domestic violence. They should not be able to tell you what to do and who you can see and who you can talk to. You have the freedom to do what you want, and if somebody's doing that to you, then that's considered abuse. Anybody can be victims of domestic violence. If you think you're being abused, get help right away.
My name is Miguel Garcia, and I'm 15, and I'm in the 9th grade, and I have a skin disorder called epidermolysis bullosa. It's where my skin doesn't have, well, I call it a glue that holds your skin together, and any type of friction will tear the skin right off because I don't have that glue that holds the skin in place. And or any really hard gunking gives me blisters. And so when I have open wounds, I have to wrap them like my hands are, and my feet are wrapped and my legs. My family is really big. I have 3 younger brothers and 3 older sisters. So I'm the middle child and a mom and a stepdad. What I think that makes a healthy family is that the family cares about each other. Brothers and sisters take care of each other. Even if you don't have a mother or a father, yeah, they can still take care of you, support you, and just love you, so then you have love to give back. I like to paint because I'm good at it, and it just makes me more relaxed. I can concentrate on what I'm doing and not what I need to do, or in the past what happens, or in the future. I just concentrate on what I'm doing and just make beautiful artwork. And I don't look the negative side, I look on the positive side. My family, we go to the digital youth office classes and we do crafts. Like one time we painted gores and made a rattle out of it. We made bracelets and all kinds of chumash stuff. And other families come also, and so each family reenacts with each other. And so in that same class you get a class about domestic violence. I think people that are abusive is because maybe when they were small, they were getting abused, so they learned how to be abusive because they were getting abused. So now since they're older, they're abusing other people to take it out on other people, so that because they were getting abused. Somebody needs to step up and say I love you and give them care and loving that they haven't had in a while, and so they understand that somebody cares about them and supports them and just gives them a healthy house or a family. they just look on the negative side of their life and not on the positive side of their life that could be good. If somebody was in trouble of either getting abused or is the abuser, this is some tips that will help you in not being in that situation anymore. Doing crafts or artwork is a good way for the abuser, so then they can take their anger or whatever they have on the canvas or paper or whatever that they're painting on. They could do their anger on that object and not on a human being, a living thing. So then they can either do artwork, beautiful artwork, or horrible artwork. I think that would be a good thing for the abuser, because so then they could give out their emotional, and not even artwork. Poetry is also good, or a book like a biography or whatever. So then they could just write down their thoughts and feelings and on a piece of paper, and they never know, it could be worth something later. That would be the perfect help, and you'll be happier and not in that bad situation anymore.
Haku, my name is Monique Sanoki, and I'm Chumash and Apache. In a traditional way, what we put into our bodies affects our minds. I like to advocate healthy diet so that we're eating healthy, so our brains, our bodies, our emotions are working better. Domestic violence, seeing them as a woman experience this abuse, whether it's physical, emotional, or spiritual, it affects me as an onlooker, on an outside person, and it affects their children, of course, and that affects me even greater when I see it in their eyes, and we have conversations about these things, and I see them when they get older and how it affects their relationships. And I really don't understand a lot about it, how a woman can tolerate being disrespected, being hit physically as well as emotionally. And now, even in our Native community, we see a lot of spiritual abuse. And these are women that have a lot to give to our communities, but for some reason they have a low self-esteem through society, through what society tells us a woman should look like. And most of us don't fit that model, that Barbie model. And it affects our emotional state, which affects our physical state and our spiritual state. And we end up being insecure about who we are, and we end up feeling nobody loves us. And we lose sight of who we are as women, as mothers, as community members. We lose sight of our responsibility, are not just life givers, but contributors to our community. In a Native traditional way, it's the women who carry a lot of the knowledge, the history, the plant knowledge, and they're, of course, the child bearers and the child caretakers for a lot of a child's life. And when we as women aren't healthy mentally or physically or spiritually, our children aren't healthy, our families aren't healthy. And so when we talk about healthy families, it means more to me that it's what we have around us, our food, the products we use, how we treat the earth. And that all comes down to how we treat ourselves and how we treat our children and how we treat people around us. And when we are being abused, whether it's mentally, physically, spiritually, we in turn, when we are accepting that abuse, we in turn are really, in a sense, allowing those around us to be abused also. And I don't think people realize that, how painful it is for somebody else to see them being abused. As a woman, a sister in my community, it pains me deeply to see women allowing themselves to tolerate just being disrespected. And I know it's a hard thing to succumb to, and it's a hard thing to remove yourself from, but as women we have to be stronger and say no. You know, I respect my body and my mind, and I love and respect my children, and I love and respect my community, and I won't let you treat me this way, because how you treat me affects everyone around me. It affects the work that I'm able to do for my community. It affects the way I'm able to take care of my children. It affects the decisions I make. It affects every aspect of life, not just you as an individual or even just your child, your direct family. It affects the whole community, because we don't realize we're so capable of doing many things. And when we're nutritionally abused, or physically or emotionally or spiritually abused, we're unable to contribute to our community. And our community can fail. Our community is missing that link, that part of the community that it needs to continue, that it needs to preserve, you know, our traditional, our ways. And as an individual, you're not present, or you're not present 100%. And we need to remember that that's why we're here. We're here to raise healthy, happy children. We're here to contribute to our community.
Hello, my name is Quinn Rowland, and I am Cherokee. When children grow up around domestic violence, more than most of the time, it leads them to drugs and alcohol to escape this past. And then when a certain situation arises where they are inside a situation where they believe that the only way to handle this is just to react with, without thinking. And to them, it's normal. It's normal to do this. And it's sad because it's not a healthy way of living at all. Oftentimes we force ourselves to believe what isn't real, because our minds perceive that, well, this is normal. This is all I've ever known. And too often times we grow up in an environment, or have children grow up in an environment, and they see this and they think, well, that's just the way it is. And that's the saddest thing in the world. The children who suffer the worst. If you want to live a happier life, deep down in your heart you will do it, then you will live a happier life. Sometimes you have to cut out the things that bring you down, that make you react the way. Alcohol and drugs play a very, very huge part in it. And I'm not one to tell anyone what not to do. If you want to go out and enjoy yourself and have a drink, go for it. But some people really, really need to keep themselves in moderation, which too often in this world we have a tendency of not doing. I've met many people who have restraining orders against ex-boyfriends or ex-husbands, or just ex-spouses in particular. It's a shame, because more than most of the time it could have been prevented. And another thing that's a shame about it is that more than most of the time alcohol or drugs were involved. But what we should just turn around and say, before I react, I got to think about this. How is this going to affect everything around me, my children, my spouse? And in all, it all does pay off in the end, because when the day comes where you're just thinking about your life, you won't have to think about all the things that brought you down, because domestic violence breeds more domestic violence. For more than most people, it's programmed in their mind that this is the only way that they know. So more than most of the time, we have to think to ourselves, do we really, really, truly want this? What does our heart want? Because too often of our time, our heart doesn't really, truly know what it wants, because we're surrounded by so many things these days, which initializes a lot of the people who have those domestic violence issues. If you just think before you react, you won't have this problem. No one would. No one should ever suffer at the hands of anyone else, ever. That is the most degrading thing in this world. To tell someone, get out of my house, or, I never loved you, or I don't trust you. If you stop and say to yourself, I witnessed this happen before, you can actually turn around and tell yourself, I don't want this to happen anymore ever again. It's all about prevention. It's all about reaction and thinking about reaction. Sometimes it's best to just walk away. Walk away without regret. Walk away without the idea that, something's coming up here that I'm not going to be able to handle later. So I'm either going to react violently or I'm going to react easily. To attain a healthy relationship, it takes a lot of patience. A lot of people say, well, it's love and faith and devotion and honesty, but patience and tolerance. So to me, what leads to actual happiness is happiness within yourself. Because more than most of the time, domestic violence is because you're not happy with yourself. If you're not happy with yourself, how do you expect to be happy with anyone else?
Going back to my indigenous past, which I have forgotten all too many times, all too often. The song of the drum calling me back to where the truth dwells. My mind awakens with the spring flowers of new, the song of the drum calling me back. The world, with its hard and thankless toil, making me forget of the culture of my ancestors. The beating of the drum is that of the African past, interwoven into the basket of relations. All too many times, I have forgotten the songs of my ancestors, the heartbeat of my soul, acknowledging that, like my thoughts, like the spring flowers of new, the earth with its hard and thankless toil. There can be no void where questions can't be answered. Forgetting my culture, forgetting my time, all too many times, all too often. The beating of my drum is like the beating, the pulse of Mother Earth. Thunder beings scream in hopes that we will not lose self. The earth with its hard and thankless toil, the beating of the drum calling me back to where I once was forgotten. In a time of indigenous cultures, the earth's thankless toil, awakening with the flowers which have been forgotten all too often. Going back to my indigenous roots, to my indigenous past, the beating of my drum awakened my soul like the flowers of the springtime. My soul awakens with the beating of the drum, the lifeblood of us all, and the earth's hard and thankless toil.